So how'd you end up joining the Rinraku military? Ah, a fair question, given my youthful indiscretions. Gaichu leans back. His blind eyes turns towards the ceiling. Are you familiar with the Kempeitai? Academic, aren't they the Japanese political police? Yes. Much like the commissars of the Soviet Union, they are responsible for enforcing political and social orthodoxy. Not only concerned with the army, the Kempeitai also enforce certain laws with regard to the general populace. It's my understanding that they're a Gestapo. That's not entirely accurate, but it is more correct than not. It is an organization with little oversight, broad powers, and simple recruitment methods. As such, power tends to get the better of most members. Jesus. When I was enrolled at Kyoto University, I studied global security and political science. It is the major generally used as a gateway to private security postings with both government and corporate militaries. I knew I wanted to fight. I was a young man and my blood was always up. One of the requirements was that students join the Youth Brigade Kempeitai. The Youth Brigade is a bit like the ROTC in North America, the Young Falcons in the Sioux Nation, or the District Officer Program in the Republic of Korea. Members learn to be soldiers without actually joining an army. They perform community service and promote civic pride. Ugh. Performance and prestige in the Kempeitai used to dictate later job opportunities. A bit like a good internship. You have to be a good fascist to get a good job. Yeah. Seems like the kind of thing Rinraku would look favorably on. When I was in school, the mega corporations looked favorably on Youth Brigade service. At the time, the interests of the Emperor and the corporations were aligned. A grand drive to return Japanese industry to the forefront of the world economy. Good marks from your Youth Brigade commander were a sure sign that you would be offered a good position with corporate security, and I wanted to be the best. These days, the mega corporations have begun to resist that kind of nationalism in favor of corporate pride. Youth Brigade service is becoming a black mark rather than a positive. Gaichu shifts, resting his elbows on his knees as he leans forward. I do not know if the alternative is any better, though. Yeah, probably not. When I was nearing graduation, I was approached by a recruiter with Rinraku Security. She told me I came from a good family and could have a promising career with the company. She offered to fast-track my application towards a potential Red Samurai position. 3 years with the Rinraku military as a junior officer, and guaranteed placement in a Red Samurai training billet of my choosing. The pay was good, and the excitement of being an elite was an attractive proposition I accepted. But I did not truly understand what I was signing up for. As I told you before, they forced you to give up everything except the company and unit. That was made clear to me, but I did not truly understand it. Did you regret your decision? On the whole, no. I do not know who I would have been had I not joined. Perhaps there are things that I miss, but regret is perpetual. One is always tempted to ask what if, but that is a trap. Gaichu wraps 2 knuckles on his breastplate. This is who I became. The armor was my protection and my identity. The training was extremely difficult, both mentally and physically. I knew that I would be isolated from my old life, but I did not anticipate the full extent of that isolation. All Red Samurai report to a facility called the Forge in Chiba. You are assigned a unit, you and 4 other recruits, and for the next 2 years the Forge will be your home and prison. Shaking his head wistfully, Gaichu snorts. It seems ridiculous in retrospect. We were all so young. None of us had any idea what we were doing, except trying to become the best soldiers in the world. And yet those strangers became my new family, in the absence of the old. Well, that's how they get you to become a killer. Tell me about the members of your unit. Gaichu wrinkles his nose as if smelling something foul. That chapter of my life is over and done with, and they are no longer part of my world. Why would you care about any of that? Well, if they're still hunting you, I need to know about them. He stares at you for a long, silent moment. Finally, he grunts. Very well. That's a fair point. Gaichu looks down at his hands, picking something out from beneath one claw. He continues to look at his hands while he speaks. When I was younger, I would have more readily cut off my fingers than tell you what you ask. You must understand that secrecy is absolute among the Red Samurai. Your identity becomes secret, erased from any database that might connect you to the Red Samurai. You use only your code name when in the field, and your given name is known only to your commanders and your unit. Even other Red Samurai units have no idea who you really are. Finally looking up from his hands, Gaichu leans back against the boxes. Contact with the outside world is cut off completely. Even once training is over, your communications are restricted. Maintaining relationships outside of those you work with is frowned upon. This isn't what I asked him. I asked him about his squad. That's a lot of stress. What if a recruit can't take it? Very few recruits get to this point if they cannot handle it. We all underwent stringent psychological tests prior to this point. If a recruit cannot handle it, he and the rest of his unit are failed out of the program. The rationale is simple. If one member cannot take the training and his unit cannot carry him through, they have all failed. Ishida was our commander. He came from a rich family in Saitama, the kind of family where he was given every advantage possible, with the expectation that he would keep the family name prestigious. He was older than the rest of us, as he had already spent 6 years in the army, a very severe man, rarely given to humor. Takagawa was usually the second in command. As our designated marksman, he tended to have a better tactical view of how an operation should be run, simply because he needed to study the terrain more. He loved to get us laughing. Without him, I think I would have gone crazy in the first few months. Our major's name was Sasaki. She had been in training as a Miko, an apprentice priestess, when her magic began to manifest. She was in the unit for the challenge and for the money. Her family had always been poor, and they'd always told her she would never amount to anything. Huh. I think she joined the Red Samurai just to prove to them that she could do anything she wanted. Was she hard to work with? Gaichu smiles distantly. No, actually, quite the opposite. She was excellent at encouraging us to go above and beyond what we thought ourselves capable of. I think part of his secret was that she never actually questioned if she could accomplish any of her goals. She simply assumed that it was inevitable. Our heavy gunner's name was Aomori. Aomori? Blue Death? He kept the team honest with itself. He never had a disparaging word for anyone, but he would not hesitate to call someone out for their behavior. Sasaki loved that about him, really. She loved all of him. The two were discreet, but discretion only goes so far in such a small team. Still, we respected their privacy where possible. Is that kind of thing allowed? If the unit commander allows it, yes. We were given incredibly wide leeway in what to allow or forbid in our unit. The belief being that results were the only thing that mattered. If the unit failed, it would fail as a whole. Sasaki and Aomori were crazy about each other, and it would have done more harm to keep them apart. Lastly, there was me. I was the close quarters and breaching expert, the first man in the door when we had to clear a room. I was the perfectionist on the team. Aomori could get us to do anything, but I was the one who made certain we did it well, with style. How do you mean? If a thing was worth doing, it is worth doing well. If that thing is also your duty, it is worth doing perfectly. Many times we will perform a drill or exercise well enough, but that was not good enough if I had to trust my life to it. That was why we became one of the best teams in the organization's history. That is a thing to be proud of. Of course it is. Do you think I did not know that? I apologize. It is just that those feelings are still raw sometimes. Uh-huh. Even if I were to be cured, I could never go back. They have been disgraced and I have done unforgivable things. I have been cast out for good. Maybe it's for the best. What do you mean? Gaichu closes his eyes, sighing through his nose. When they ambushed me in Fukuoka, it was fight or die. I killed 2 of them before I escaped. I would not be returning to the unit no matter what. Oh snap. Who'd you kill? Which 2 did you kill? He opens his eyes after a moment, shoulder slumping. It is not an easy memory to grapple with. Hey, the dialogue doesn't match the responses. That's fine, guys. You take your time. Thank you, SCKC, but I'm sorry I cannot talk about it now, but I need to process the emotions. They are still raw. I am tired. Come back later and we can talk more. Alright. No, but which 2 did you kill? Oh, there's more stuff? Gaichu has made no attempt to organize his box of personal effects, but it's obvious that he's been through it. The contents are still jumbled, but it seems to have been unpacked and replaced. Lying atop the box this time is a small soapstone statuette and a folding paper fan. Statuette? The statuette is of a round-faced bodhisattva. I thought there was an I in there. Bodhisattva. I thought it was bodhisattva. Oh, whatever. Bodhisattva. Its head canted slightly to one side. Its hands are pressed together in prayer, and a tiny red bib is tied around its neck. The figure's expression is serene. It bears a slightly crooked smile, as if it knew a secret or had heard a joke. What is this tiny statue with a bib? Gaichu pauses, turning an ear more fully towards you. Ah, it is the statue of Jizo, the protector of children. He is also the guardian of travelers. Statues of him are placed along almost every road in Japan. His name outside of Japan is Sitikaba. Sitikaba. You don't seem like a person that cares about having kids. Seems rather cute for you. It is, but it is not so much about what he does as much as how much I enjoyed his temple in Kyoto. It was one of the few refuges I had during my time living in the city. Jizo Inn is a tiny place. It is fairly close to the much larger and better known sister temple of Saihoji, on the western edge of Kyoto. Unlike Saihoji, however, Jizo Inn is almost unknown. Gaichu smiles fondly, looking sightlessly into the distance. To get there, you have to walk through twisting residential streets, past a deep green grove of bamboo. If you do not know what you're looking for, you will never find it. Most people assume the road it is on is simply a dead end. I recall walking there in a light rain. I could smell the ginkgo and maple leaves in the slight breeze. I would go there and simply sit and let myself be. Whenever I felt the stress of school was too much for me. Inside there are several small shrines, but the main attraction is the moss garden. You enter a very old meditation room from a small gate. You take off your shoes, you sit at the edge of the garden and feel the world outside slip from your mind like water through a sieve. Just you, the breeze, the trees, and the moss. That garden was a microcosm of my world, stripped bare of any confusion and bustle. Sounds nice. Smiling faintly, Gaichu dips his head. I rather thought so. I never saw more than 2 other people in the temple, no matter what the time of year. It seemed at the time to be my own private sanctuary. Examine the fan. The folding paper fan is cheaply constructed with thin paper stretched over plastic spines. It's obviously a souvenir sold to tourists for a few new yen. Unfolding the fan reveals a pleasant landscape, a Japanese city in the 19th century or earlier. Curved roofs at sunset beside a deep blue river. Two ships sail down the river, which is spanned by a long wooden bridge. In the foreground, laborers carry buckets along the shore as a man on horseback rides in the opposite direction. Haven't I? I've seen this before. In the distance, a pair of large red buildings dominate the city skyline. What? Large temple hall and 5-tiered pagoda. Gaichu grunts, not turning towards you. The fan is from Sensoji Temple in Asakusa, one of the districts of Neo Tokyo. Asakusa. Morning grass. The image is one of the less famous works by Ando Hiroshige, a woodblock printer from before the Meiji Restoration. I purchased the fan while on leave from my military training. It reminds me of how open life felt when I was younger. How the future seemed to stretch out full of possibility, and also because I like the painting. Alright, leave the box alone. I mean, at some point we're gonna do missions for those guys, right? Oh, I didn't need to do that. Alright, let's sleep. Let's have another nightmare! Hey, I hope this doesn't mess me up. Maybe I should sleep less. Like, what if every time you have a nightmare, things get worse? Like, what if this changes the ending somehow, right? You wake with a start. Once again, you've tangled in your sheets, drenched in sweat. Your throat feels like it's on fire. You can't remember what your dreams were about, not precisely, but again you feel that yearning sensation, the emptiness in your gut and in your chest. Your head throbbing, you heave yourself out of bed. Alright, there's no details. Well, let me run over to the train station and get down there, save the game. I need to save money for better spells. And when we come back, we're gonna steal a laser. We have to bring Rector with us because his former workmates are at the Ares lab. And maybe we get a laser gun. I don't know who I give the laser gun to. Probably Duncan, right? Anyway, let me save this and Ares Asia Holdings. Alright, see you next time.